Yeah.
Would you say Waimania?
No,
Yeah,
Waimani.
Waimania. Resinosa. Yeah. So that's your kāmahi. If you're in Tauranga, you'd probably call it pāwhero, but here we'll call it kāmahi. That's the tāwhero. Now, if you look behind it, that's your hino,
The long leaf one.
the long leaf one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you'll find that as you look at it, the branches are largely bare and the leaves are at the end and they point upwards. And when we used to collect the bark for dye, what I would do is climb up on the ridge with binoculars and scan down the ridges, and the hino is normally on the ridges and has got flat tops. Whereas other trees are sort of rounded tops, these seem to have sort of flattish tops. And then we just make our way down to get the bark off them. See the flower stalks on the kohe kohe? Now often when the flowers come, the last year's seeds are actually ready. Can you see any seeds hanging down?
That there. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, those are the flower buds. I can't see any seeds hanging down. Now the fact...
Disoxylum?
Yep. It belongs to the mahogany family.
Ah.
And I have seen some lovely furniture made from kohe kohe. They don't always get to be such big trees, but the fact that it can actually send its flowering buds out from the branches and often even from the trunk itself, that's a characteristic of a tropical forest. If you go around to a place like Borneo, apparently that's a feature of lots of those trees actually there. You know,
Like frangipani.
yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Straight off the trunk.
yeah, so the thing about it is that, you know, when New Zealand was actually a tropical country, and over the last hundreds of millions of years it's been drifting south, drifted so slowly that a lot of the species actually adapted as it moved along. And that's how we got all this tropical element in our forests. And then you keep them in an area where they're completely dry. And then all you have to do is actually put them in a pot, boil them for 10 or 15 minutes and leave them to soak for half an hour, and they're ready to eat. And they're a very, very good source of carbohydrate. You know, but the advantage of them is that if you keep them dry, they'll last for years and years and years. And then if you have a lean year, for example, say your kumara crop didn't succeed, all you have to do is recook them and they're ready to eat.
So you cook them to start with.
Yeah, what you do is you get all these berries,
Yeah.
you soak them.
Right. And so they've got to be black like that.
Oh, it doesn't matter if they're not black,
No.
until all the flesh can be easily washed off. Then you put them into a big pot. They used to hangi them, but these days a big pot will do. Boil them for about half an hour, and then stick them out in the sun to dry. And that means putting them out every day for weeks. If you've got any moisture left in them, they'll go mouldy. And then you actually put them in a nice dry place. Top of the hot water cupboard's a good place. And a cardboard box, never in a plastic. Glass jar is good. I've got those giant big preserving jars, that's what I keep mine in. And then you keep them like that until you need them. Or, you know, the old days in your pātaka or your kumara pit, they were they weren't damp places, they were actually very good dry places. And they can be kept there until you actually need them.
And then you cook them for half an hour.
No, cook them for about 10 minutes, no more than 15. Leave them to soak for half an hour and then just eat them. I've heard of people getting the dried berries and grinding them and making bread out of it. And it's really wonderful.
What does it taste like?
Well, the first thing, it's got a most delicious smell. But, you know, this is a vine that's going up here. I've seen a tāpara more vine like this. and I've measured one over 100 feet long on a tree that tipped over. You know, so they do become very substantial, and normally you don't actually see them because they're actually way up high in the canopy. But if you're wanting some tātara more, this is the sort of place to come to on your edge again. And that's the one, you know, as a sort of a relaxant, it's a very, very good plant. And it does work very well with, you know, with little children, with old people. You give it to them on their first night when they're staying in a place like this, and it helps them to go to sleep better. You know, it's quite useful. There are about 5 species, and they are, this is ordinary Sissioides, I think. But
The bush lawyer.
I used to, well, I used to get little baby seedlings and grow them, and, you know, because they're quite handy to have. And see, you got a puka on that tree over there, do you know that?
Big round.
Some people call it ka puka,
Where?
over there, and by shiny leaves.
Oh, the shiny leaves, yeah.
Normally you find that growing as an epiphyte way up high on the tree, but that one probably on a tree that's tipped over. The trick is to tell which one is which, and so if you look at them closely, they really are quite different. Then you can decide which is which.
How do you tell the difference?
No, that's your kamaki.
The berries, which ones stay on the manuka? They stay on.
Opposite and opposed too.
The what?
Leaves. Opposite and opposed. Manuka is also sifting. So opposed is manuka and should be that's manuka. So opposite leaves.
Really? They have different leaves.
And opposed,
Is that not a form of vodka?
same thing.
Yeah, neither of those have berries.
No, that's
is
soft
it
as
the
manuka.
So which ones do the berries stay on? Is it the...
So manuka's opposed and kanuka should be opposite. The leaf arrangements.
So these are opposed.
Yep. And then kanuka should be opposite.
But one of them should have berries on year round, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I can't remember which one, which is Kanuka, isn't it? Or
I think it's kanuka, the berries stay on.
You know, you can see what the cows go for, and that's why, you know, places for keeping your rongoa, if the stock are getting in there, a lot of the things you're going to really need are not going to be there. Even these tingāhere, these bush cabbage trees have been eaten out. So they haven't gone too much for these coprosmas because this divaricating form makes them much less attractive. They've just eaten the soft tip, but these karamu, they very, very palatable. It's very good for them too, you know. You won't find any cow with eating that's going to get a heart attack. They won't get diabetes. Not that they ever live that long. But that's our problem in terms of our sourcing some of our plants. So you may find we got no karamu on there, probably because it's a bit too shady for them on that side. But if they were there, they would survive much better because the cows can't reach them. Lots of it right along the face here. The name for that is takapu, and it's actually a type of Goltheria. Very pretty flowering plant, and the berries are edible if you can find ripe ones. There's lots of rewa coming up. Now if you're transplanting rewa, you can see how there's funny shaped leaves at the bottom. Those are your cotyledons, they're the ones that break out of the seed pod and start to tree up. Now, while those leaves are still attached, it's not too difficult to transplant rewa. because the plant is actually feeding off them. Once they've gone, you'll find they're very difficult to transplant. Very nice. Yeah, the other one I always look at is this hino. This is a good,
I think it was-
good one to put some. See how the branches are relatively bare, and the leaves are crowded at the end, and they're actually pointing upwards.
What is that?
Yeah, that was a very important food tree at one stage. In Tauranga it's gradually disappearing because the trees never flower because the possums eat all the flowers off. Yeah, that's your main dyeing tree if you're dyeing black. And so what you do is you take the bark off and you pound it and then you boil it. But we don't like doing that anymore because it does hurt the tree a whole lot. You know, so but you'll often find the old people that are making their pew-pews, you know, can you get us a hino? The only ones that I'll take now are ones that are actually dying, because I found that when you, say if you've got a big round tree and you took a strip of bark off, you come back in a couple of years and all the branches that came off that strip will die. It looks like the tree's had a stroke. And when I saw that I thought, oh, no, there's other trees I can use. Because the thing is with your dye, for those of you that are chemists, the active ingredient in your waiwai is tannic acid. So you can get that out of tea bags. Some people have a big drum and they chuck all their tea bags in and with water, and when they're ready to dye their pew-pews they just stick their pew-pews into that. And then what you do is you dry it with the tea still in it, and then when you put it into the mud, the special mud, and there's some of it down here in the harbour, the mud that's got iron salt, ferrous sulfate in it, reacts with the tannic acid and you get permanent black. So it's just basically it's very basic chemistry, knowing that because the ferrous sulfate is an iron salt which is incomplete and it's looking for an extra oxygen molecule. So you know, going from FTO3 to F3O4, and that's what it's getting through the reaction with the tannic acid. And then that's how you get your permanent black. You know, it's quite amazing how they utilise those chemical reactions even without. They don't describe it the way that a chemist would, but that's in actual fact the basis of their dyeing process.
And how does the hino come into it? It's like it's a source of tannic acid too, instead of tea.
Yeah. But you can get, some people just boil up branches of kānuka. Walnut is rich in it. Kamahi's rich in it. It's really what is available. And the thing about it is the reason why they used hino was that it was once a very common tree. Whereas in lots of parts of the country it's on the way to disappearing completely. You know, it's just like anything. If it can't, no matter how beautiful the tree is, if it can't actually produce seeds, it's no good. That's what's happening to the human race, isn't it? The fertility is dropping and dropping and dropping, and the time will come when we will start to die out. Which is might be too late. Well, you know, the planet will survive, but not as we know it.